Hello, and welcome to the Power of We podcast. I am your host, Nisa Brown Springman, and the founder of Ignite Your Life. Ignite is a women's holistic health, fitness, and lifestyle community. And for the past 17 years, I have had the honor, privilege, and blessing of being the recipient of the wisdom, strength, knowledge, encouragement, and inspiration that comes from being part of this incredible community. And I want you in on that. In Ignite, this is what we call the power of we. The power of we is the philosophy that Ignite is built upon, which is that two is better than one, and that God created us for community and to do life together. In this podcast, I will have conversations with a wide range of women over a wide range of topics that will provide you with wisdom, knowledge, inspiration, and encouragement. So get ready to be empowered, y'all, because here we go. Hello, Martha Lynn.
Hey, Nisa.
Welcome to the Power of We podcast, where we are going to learn from you, as I always get to do. And I love that you are allowing us to continue to learn from you. So all the wisdom that you and coaching that you have given me all these years, you're so generous and letting me have a conversation with you and interview you to give some of this wisdom and inspiration and information to others, because what you have taught me has just I really don't like to think about my life before Martha Lynn. Say the exercise. What Martha Lynn is going to talk to us about today is about core values and why, and first of all, what they are and why they're so important. And I did not have a clue that, I knew what values were, but I didn't even know that core values were a thing until you recommended this exercise to me. And upon determining my core values, my understanding of myself went to a completely different level. You can learn your core values at any time of your life. There's never a good, a bad, a right or wrong time. It's all good whenever it is that you choose to go down this path. But we're doing it to kind of launch us into the new year. So it's a great exercise to do at the beginning of the year when we're setting our goals, when we're looking into the future, and we're excited about all the potential that the new year holds. So today's podcast is all about core values. So Martha Lynn, I'm just going to give you the microphone and let you go for it. Tell us all about core values and why we need to know them.
Thank you, Nisa. So I want to start with just acknowledging that Nisa and I, for those of you that don't know our relationship, I've been working with Nisa as her executive coach for several years. I've known her as a fitness guru in my world since, 2001.
2000.
And 2000, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I've had the gift and the privilege of watching Nisa literally grow up into her adulthood, get married, have children, build her own business, and then also the honor of standing side by side with her in partnership to support her in her business and be the person that she can go to in a safe place to unload and get support and be accountable for doing the things that she wants to do. That is actually my role as an executive coach, is to help people design and define what they want to do in their careers, what they want to do in their work, and then also help them by giving them tools with challenges that they have in their business or in their relationships in work environments. So I wanted to preface that saying that I knew Nisa very well from a personal perspective because we worked together in training. And it wasn't until we really got clear about her core values that I got a whole another level of understanding about who Nisa is. And then also shared with her what my core values are, so she's aware of how I operate. So this is an exercise I do with all of my clients. And this exercise really, the origin of it came from Momentum Consulting, which is an organization that I have been in partnership with and associate with as a coach for many, many years. Since the year 2003. So I'm moving into my 20th year of executive coaching. This core values exercise is the consistent number one foundational piece of work that we do with all of our clients. And here's why. Core values are the 3 to 6 values that every human being has that typically get formed by the time we're 12 years old, somewhere between 0 and 12. They are the 3 to 6 values that will stick with us through our entire life. So core values are very different than values that we aspire to or values that are important to us. Those values come and go depending on our age, our experience, our season of the life that we're in. But our core values grab us and they are with us. Now, how we behave with our core values as we get older and have different experiences, the behaviors and how we identify with them can shift. But the core values themselves do not change. And the reason why we identify core values is because they are responsible for our behavior, our thoughts, our words, our feelings. They help drive all of that. And because they're so much a part of who we are, they typically live in us unconsciously. We approach or think about our core values as if not only the way I should be in the world, but here's the killer, the way everybody else should be. So core values give us a lot of information about how we automatically react and respond and behave in the world. They will also give us information for what our limitations are, where potential blind spots can show up. So by understanding what our personal core values are, it helps guide us in creating goals for ourselves. It helps guide us in understanding where we might get triggered. It helps guide us in resolution and in recovery for ourselves and for our relationships. It also helps me understand, especially in those client relationships that I have with leaders, it helps me understand how to have that leader lead even more effectively. And that's why that's important.
And I just want to add that you have done this. Speaking of leaders, you took us as an Ignite team through our core values. And which reminds me, we have a couple team members who I need to set up with you to do this exercise with. But it is something that we as Team Ignite have done. And it is just, as the owner of the company and the leader, I am so much better able to communicate and to understand the individual team members because I know what their core values are.
Yes.
Whereas before, I mean, it's opened up a door that I never knew existed of understanding other people too.
Well, and here's what's so powerful about it as a leader is that you are always going to automatically lead through your core values. If you have insight to what your team's core values are, it gives you more information and leverage to also lead them through their core values. And while I'm speaking about business and leadership, Nisa, this is really about any relationship you have with anybody. If you're a parent, you're a leader of the family. And I'll tell you, this was the most extraordinary experience I had with my own children. I have 2 stepsons and I have a son and a daughter. And, you know, like any parent that does what they do, I just kind of stay in the background about my profession and what I do. Because if I were to say to my kids, hey, let's do your core values, it'd be like, ooh, mom, gross, no, what? Well, one year I had an opportunity. My oldest stepson was going off to college and was writing essays, and they were asking him a bunch of personal questions, and he was so frustrated. He's like, I don't know who I am. I'm only 18 years old, and what are they asking me? And he was getting very flustered by identifying things that were important to him. And I said, well, I have an exercise that might help you write this essay. Would you be interested in it? And he was like, yeah. Well, all the other kids were around. We were actually on a summer vacation, believe it or not, and all of them wanted to do it. And at the time, they were ages 12 through 17. So they were all cooked. All their core values were already settled. So they each sat down and did their core values. And it took them 2 seconds. Like when they're that age, they're right there. They didn't
they're not overthinking.
They're not overthinking. They're not going, well, I don't know. They were like, check, 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 check. And I got all their core values back and I looked at each child and I was like, oh my goodness. Like, you nailed it, you nailed it, you nailed it, you nailed it. And then I was like, why am I not surprised? And I realized what a great opportunity it was for me as a parent, especially when there was conflict between me and one of the kids for whatever reason. As soon as I saw their core values, I was like, oh. It gave me a lot of information for how to parent my own children.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the most revealing thing I think I've ever done. And it made sense. And I realized, oh, no wonder that parenting style with that kid isn't working. Because I'm violating from their perception, their core value. So I say that because although we talk a lot about business and leadership, this is powerful to do with your families and really powerful if you have a partner or a spouse. I often consider when my husband looks like his energy's down or something, I think, what's going on here? Typically his fun core value is being violated. So I'll go, hey, let's go out and do something. I'll try to find something
Greg
fun.
and I are buddies. We would do pouty pants in the corner together if we're not.
Totally, right? And guess what? He perks right up. Oh, okay, let's go. So it's just powerful information. So let me tell you a little bit about, obviously, that's the benefit of understanding your core values. It's an intimate understanding of why you are the way you are. It's also an intimate understanding of why the people around you that you work with, that you live with, that you love, why they are the way they are. Because core values are so much a part of our DNA, on our cellular level, that we have this unconscious belief that everybody should be our core values. Now, in our heads and logically, we're like, no, of course not. Everybody's different, right? But that's not how we react to people. We react to people based on what we think they should be doing based on our core values. So that when we have that information, it gives us more opportunity to understand why we're feeling how we're feeling, how we handle a situation, getting curious about what's important to the other person. There's so many benefits to it.
But and can I just use a quick example of that, which is it came to mind. There's so many core value examples, but in worked with Ignite and she was amazing. And one of her core values was excellence. And she'd get really hung up on if something didn't look a certain way. Like spend hours just continuing nitpick. And finally, when I learned that her core value was excellence, I was like, no wonder why it takes her, why she's so critical of what she produces, is because she has an expectations of excellence. It has to look a certain way. And in her mind, it never really did, because it just couldn't be good enough because she had such. But it helped me understand and appreciate where she's coming from in her work.
Well, and using that example, and then we'll go into how you define or identify your core values. You know, while that was important to her, right, where she might get hung up in the world is when other people don't produce excellent work. Because it's a core value, it's an unconscious expectation. So people who do not produce excellent results would probably drive that person crazy. So as I said, we typically have anywhere from 3 to 6. Those are not hard numbers. You know, maybe somebody has 7 or 8. I typically find that if you think you have more core values, the values actually probably fold into one value. There's probably 2 or 3 that are really the same value. And that's what part of the exercise will help you identify. So our core values, as I said, are formed before typically the age of 12. Can you form one later in life? I'm not going to say never. I mean, I don't know. But typically, we're pretty done in forming them at a young age. We get them from 3 places. we will typically either get a core value from a person of influence, which means a positive influence, or it could be a negative influence. And if you think about in our young formative years, it will probably be a parent, a teacher, a coach, a close family member. It actually could even be a sibling if you had an older sibling. But it's typically a person of influence that you spend a fair amount of time around, and you're receiving feedback and modeling. And but that's not exclusive. I mean, you could have one experience with a stranger and see how they behave, and that could form a core value. So it could be somebody we wanted to be like, or maybe somebody we didn't want to be like. That's a person of influence. That's one way to get it. Another way is a defining moment. Something happened, boom, that core value was formed. Those are pretty heavy memories. Like people can probably think, oh yeah, that's when that one got clarified for me. And then the third way that we get core values could simply be through self-discovery. And I always start with that because as you're going through identifying your core values, I want people to be thinking, okay, was it a person that influenced this core value? Was it an event that influenced this core value? Or, did I just come up with this one all by myself? It helps anchor it to understand where it comes from. Sometimes we can get right to it. Sometimes it takes a while. But it's just helpful information for you to understand the origin of the core value. The other thing I will say about core values is that they are non-negotiable. Meaning, and we touched on this a little bit, not only is it important for us to be this way, and we're not going to be perfect. We will violate our own core value, right? But we strive to be this way. But we also expect others to be this way. That's where the non-negotiable comes in. That's the discernment and the distinction between a core value and a value that's important. So I have a core value of connectedness. Like it will bother me if people get left out. I don't like it. Or if people don't include me, I don't like it. I have an issue, right? But I don't have a core value of, let's say I don't have a core value of excellence. So I don't care if I'm excellent. I don't care if other people are excellent. That's up to them, whatever. It'd be a nice core value to have, but I don't, right? So that's the difference. Core values are non-negotiable. Values are negotiable. They come and go.
Got it.
So what I ask people to do, and we're going to include this handout in a link on this podcast, but what we do is we have a list of values. It's not a complete list. It's just to get your brain thinking. And I ask clients to look at the list, and I ask them to identify, circle, star, highlight, whatever they want to do, the values that resonate with them. In other words, you look at the value and go, oh yeah, that's important to me. Oh yeah, I'm just like that. And you can circle as many values as you want. And then what we do is we put the values that have been identified and we organize them in like groups. So I use the example of connectedness as one of my core values. So in my group of words, I had words like connectedness, relationship, partnership, community, trust, honesty, collaboration. And they all went together in this one group. And then I started going through and thinking about, what do these words mean to me? What really, belonging was another word. That's there. You know, it was, so I was looking, and when what I realized is that it was very important to me to be in relationship with people, to connect with people, to not leave anybody out. So I formed this behavior of being a part of all the different groups in my whole life. I'll try this and I'll try that and I'll be with them and I'll be with that. No man left behind. And what I realized when I really thought about it, it's more than relationship. It was really, for me, the word that said it was connectedness. And so that's the word I pulled out as my core value.
And so you thought that after backtracking, and you felt like that's because in your childhood or your upbringing, you were kind of part of all these different groups and it really fed you. You loved it. It made you feel whole and part of a community. So would you say that's where that came from?
That's a great question. Actually, where it came from was a defining moment. It was the opposite of that.
Okay.
I got kicked out of a reading group in first grade.
This is what is so brilliant about these things. Okay.
Right? Yeah. It was the top reading group, I will tell you. And I was so proud to be in it. And she gave us a very specific direction and I did not follow it. And she asked me to leave the group.
In first grade?
First, I was 6. And my little 6th grade brain didn't say, well, now I have a core value of connectedness. No, I just made some decision as a 6-year-old. Well, I'm going to get back into that group. And 2, I'm going to be in every group. Like, watch me. I'm going to be in kickball and I'm going to do gymnastics and I'm going to play ballet and I'm going to do ballet and I'm going to do softball and I'm going to do soccer and I'm going to be in the Bluebirds and I'm going to be in the Brownies.
Got it.
The participating in all the different groups was a strategy for protecting my little heart of not feeling the pain of not being connected.
And so would you say that core value, you would be compensating in that core value or would it be in violation of that core value or would that core value be violating you if you were like right now, even though you knew that you were going to be exhausted by saying yes to all these things, but that's part of your connected core value and you want to be part of all of this little thing and that little thing and they're overlapping on top of one another and you can't do it all, but you want to, and therefore you exhaust yourself.
Yes. Bingo. So what you're pointing out, Nisa, is that our core values are formed, adopted, acquired by us to serve us, right? They serve us. My connected core value is awesome because I get to connect with so many amazing people. I get to know people. I get to participate in things. It's fantastic. It's what actually led me to do what I do and love. Like, I love being a coach. I absolutely love it. And so they form as a way to serve us. And then to your point, if we're not really being careful and paying attention, we can overcompensate and then they become limiting. And I absolutely have had times in my lives where I was like, sign me up. I had a hard time saying no, right? Yep. Because that would feel like a violation from my perception. It's not real. It's only a perception of my connected core value. And so I've had to learn over the years that actually what's more important is being connected to my heart. And if the thing I'm saying yes to is not a heartfelt yes, back to the hell yeah, then I can respectfully decline. And honestly, if I'm being resentful about saying yes to something, I'm not really participating in a way that's connecting with whoever I'm dealing with. So it's a lose-lose in that situation. Now, here's the other thing where you'll get in trouble with your core values. So that's just me on me, right? This is where it serves me. This is where I limit my own core value. But then it goes beyond us. As I said earlier, not only do we have an expectation to live out of our core values, we have an expectation that everybody else should live out of our core values. So if I feel like I have respect for a core value, that one really gets me. If I have a judgment that somebody else is being disrespectful, that's a huge trigger for me. And I will have a judgment about them. And typically how I might react to that, it depends on the person. But if they're close to me, I may be snappy. I may be sassy if I feel disrespected, and then I'm being disrespectful. So then not only am I violating my core value with them, I'm also violating my core value with me. And that's where there's impact.
Can I give you an example? Because at the end of this, I would love for you to share your core values and I'll share mine.
Yes.
But one of my core values is gratitude. And when I get triggered with gratitude is, for example, if I pay someone a compliment and they don't say thank you, because in my brain, if somebody paid me a compliment, the first thing I would say, or did something kind for me, I would say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, to the point of nauseam probably. And if I don't get that in return, then I'm like, what the, how rude.
Rude.
Like, why in the world, why isn't thank you second nature to them? Well, gratitude's not their core value.
Yes.
It's mine.
That's correct. And that's the whole point of understanding what our core values are, because it gives us an understanding of what our undelivered, unconscious, and uncommunicated expectations are. So when you're a team leader, a parent, spouse, partner, friend, sister, wife, whatever, brother, husband, if you communicate to that person what your core values are, you're revealing more of yourself. It is a vulnerable and transparent thing to do. And then understanding what other people's core values are is very helpful. It's important to do with the people around you that you interact with most, but also it doesn't mean that you cannot also practice curiosity about other people's core values who are out in the world. Like, you're not going to go and ask the grocery store attendant, hey, by the way, what's your core values? And yet, when you see people behave a certain way, you can get curious. And that's a positive behavior or a negative behavior. If it's somebody that is behaving in a negative way that you're like, wow, like that was unexpected, or I always get curious about, I wonder what core value is driving that behavior. Because bad behavior is driven by a core value. So, for example, if somebody were to have, this happens a lot in business, especially at very high corporate levels. A lot of people in those executive positions for large companies have things like accountability, integrity, success, performance, achievement, accomplishment. And if they are not going to achieve or accomplish a specific goal, they may get in there and get mean and dirty because they're so focused on, I've got to achieve this, that they will overreact based on that core value that doesn't feel like it's being identified or acknowledged, and they'll have impact on people. And it's driven by, I'm trying to achieve here, but then you're leaving a path of people behind you to get there.
Destruction. Well, and I can relate to that because one of my core values all this time, and I had this conversation with you back in like April, one of mine I thought was hard work, which I absolutely got from both of my parents. But then what I just recently figured out that it's integrity that was showing up as hard work. And if I ever, boy, am I lit on fire when I feel like someone is questioning my integrity and how I do business. Like flames come out of my ears and eyeballs.
Yeah. And that's how you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I know. Or hard work is a sign of integrity for me. And the way it trips me up, and you've definitely seen this, is I will get stuck on like over the overcompensation of it because it means so much to me that my integrity is that I have integrity in the work that I do, that I will spend it back to kind of that excellence thing. I will spend way too much time over here just because no, I do have integrity. I do work hard and I will prove it to you that I do. And then I, again, path of destruction mainly for my family, you know?
Yes.
Which happened. Here's what's interesting, which family happens to be a core value of mine.
Yes.
That I end up, because of my integrity core value, violating my family core value.
Yes. They feel like they're conflicting.
Yes.
And I like how you brought that up too, Nisa, because when you talk about, originally you thought hard work was a core value, but after processing it for a few years, right? This is a journey with your core values. It really what presented to you was integrity was the core value. Hard work is a strategy that you use to acknowledge the integrity piece. And when you're doing the exercise and you're looking at all those words and then you put them in those boxes with like words, that's actually what you're finding is that a lot of the words that we choose are synonymous to our core value. They define our core value. They also define the strategy that we use, right? And sometimes the result. So when I was giving all that list of words with the connectedness, if you think about it, I had communication in there. I use communication as a strategy to connect with people, right? When I connect with people, what I get out of it is partnership and relationship. That's the result I get. So all the words are important because here's the other thing about core values. They are personal in nature to us. You and I could have the same word that we call a core value, and the meanings can be completely different.
Fascinating.
Which is why it's so important when you work with a team and somebody and you identify your core values, it's very beneficial to ask them, tell me what that means to you. Help me understand what you expect there. Here's how you really get to it. What triggers me? Right? So with your integrity core value or your gratitude, like we all know now, people who are listening, please say thank you to Nisa because that triggers her gratitude core value.
It really does.
Right? Yeah. But notice, Nisa, it's so powerful how you have such a strong reaction.
Yes, but it is. And then I'm like offended that what the heck? But had I not known this about my core values, I would just think that person again is rude. And is intending to not say thank you. Like it's just like they're intending to offend me. But of course that's not the truth at all.
That's correct. So, yeah. You know, that's very similar to core values of recognition and acknowledgement also. People that have acknowledgement or recognition as a core value generously give it and they expect others to give it too. You know, so core values are very similar to your love language. If you've done that work, it's similar. It ties into the Enneagram. If anybody's done Enneagram work, if you look at your Enneagram number and you look at the definition of that Enneagram, you will find connection with your core value there. And then the Enneagram is way more. There's a lot more information there, but even the numbers that are your ones that you go to when it's a positive or ones that you go to when it's a negative, those will also be synonymous with your core values. Any personality test will tell you the same. The reason why we do core values is because it taps into the emotional being that we are. We are emotional beings. And when we experience an interaction, if you think about it, we experience emotions first. Do I feel good or do I feel bad? The good emotion or the bad emotion will be directly connected to one of our core values. It's either being loved or it's being, from our perception, violated. Right? So we feel first, and then we have a thinking interpretation. So what this helps us do is allow the feeling of, I feel like my core value is being served, or I feel like my core value is being violated. And then it gives us an opportunity to shift our thinking. If we can think, oh, I understand why I'm upset. It's a core value. No wonder. Or, that person isn't rude. That person is just operating out of their core value. So if we think about it differently, then the result of that is we may have a different response.
Yes. And along that, this is a whole other podcast, but the book, The Four Agreements that Ron Miguel Ruiz wrote, and there are 2 agreements in there. Number 1 is to not, well, there's 4 agreements, but the 2 that I think are just agreements, they're all agreements to live by, but that really relate to this topic is don't make assumptions and don't take things personally. And so when you realize that person doesn't share the same core values as you, like, you just don't take things personally. I don't have to think that person's just being nasty to me. I'm able to just let it go.
Yes.
And just that weight to be able to let it go is so liberating. And to not be carrying that thing like, oh no, why did she do that? Or he, or he, whatever. It changed. It was a game changer for me.
So this is a real powerful thought. And I'm going to build on what you just said. The first piece of this is when we can identify what our core values are, it gives us some information about ourselves, about what our automatic motivators, drivers, and triggers are. So it gives us more understanding of why we do the things. We do the things, and the core values kind of live in the back part of our brain, in that primal part of the brain. By being able to understand what they are, we bring them right here to the frontal lobe where we're aware of them. When we're aware of them, we have more power to do something with them. So the first step is just understanding yourself more. The second step is being curious about what other people's core values are. That's interesting. I wonder why they just cut me off in traffic like that. What's going on there, right? Some core value is going on there. That's the second awareness. Now here's the third superpower awareness about core value. This is where it gets real. Are you ready? Is there anything that I'm doing that could possibly be perceived as a violation to that person's core values? So there's how we see our own core values, how we see other people's core values, but then also being curious about, if I know their core values, is there anything I might be doing that could be perceived, is the magic word, as a violation to their core values? So let me just give you an example of how that plays out in real life.
Okay.
I have a great partner that I work with, and we've been working together for years. She has fairness as a core value. And I know this.
Fair, fairness.
Yes, fairness. Okay. Yes. And this is similar to what you were saying about the person with the excellent core value. That when we are working on a project together and I start seeing her get wound up, the first thing I think is, am I being fair in her perspective?
Awesome.
And so I ask her, whoa, hang on. Is there anything I'm doing that you feel isn't being fair right now? And what it does is it acknowledges her core value. It helps her see if she has a blind spot to her reaction about that core value. And then it gives her an opportunity to let me support her. And I'm taking accountability if I'm unintentionally having an impact on her.
Well, and here's what I love about that is it then places responsibility into both people's, orbits. Instead of it all being on you or her. We're all part of this thing called life. We're all doing it together.
Yes.
And I think it is very easy to go into finger pointing mode or to absorb all the blame and the guilt, or all the blame, but to go, wait a second, there's two of us here in this thing. And so I can take a little responsibility and accountability, and he or she can take a little responsibility and accountability.
Yes, that's exactly how that works. And it takes time to get there. You have to first really get intimate with your core values being in your awareness. They're intimate with you. It's now your turn to get intimate with them, right? And so what I ask people to do once they've discovered their core values is I ask them to put them somewhere where they see them visually every single day. Like look at the words or write the words at the top of your journal if you're a journaler, or put them on a sticky note on your mirror, on your computer screen, the screen on your phone. Keep them in front of you and practice being aware of your core values. And how you do that too, besides just visually seeing them, the second thing you can do is anytime you get triggered negatively, really, stop and ask yourself, what core value am I perceiving to be violated right now? It's just a perception. That other person's not over there doing it intentionally.
And I think that is really important to acknowledge. That person is not sitting there trying to poke you and to drive you crazy. They're not even aware. And I think
most of the time. There are cases. There are some of those relationships, but
Right.
most of the time with most of the people, it's unintentional. And so if we can be accountable for, oh, this is my upset because I'm perceiving that somebody's being disrespectful, like, well, I wonder, are they? And if it feels that way, what's the conversation that I want to have?
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling disrespected right now. Here's how I would choose to be communicated with. Or then you make a request or you have a conversation about it. You won't do that with every core value that's being violated, because then we'd have to stop strangers on the street. Like people throwing trash on the ground drive me nuts. It's a disrespect thing for me, but I'm not going to go right. So it's first writing them down. It's second being aware of when you get triggered and seeing if you can identify what core value it is. And then here's the third thing. How can I stay in curiosity about other people's core values?
And thank you for reminding about that, because that's the one I have just forgotten. I'm so in tune and in touch with my own, but I forget to stay curious about other people's.
Yeah, absolutely. And typically when you see somebody in upset, it's a result of one of their core values feeling as if it's been violated, and they're trying to scramble and get it back into its happy place. So if we can understand that, it's a little bit of a human being grace moment that we give people. Yeah,
which we can't have enough of that.
That's right. So once you do these things, then you can think about, now, anything I choose to do in life, whether it's setting a goal or creating New Year's resolutions for the year, or even in the middle of the year, I want to try something new. Think about what core value might be driving this desire, because they're always there.
So, and you and I talked about this when we were talking about this podcast, which is knowing your core values. It never is a bad time to learn them, but as you design your year, they really can come in handy. And something that I did last year when I created my vision board that I'd never done before was I put my core values, I organized my vision board so that, and I had both a personal and a professional vision board, and I organized it into my core values. And what I did, organized it by core values, because what did I want to do with my family? That's a core value. What does fun look like for me? What does my integrity to my work look like to me? Those are just some examples. But I also created based off my core values, I created statements. I created core value statements. Like, this is what my fun core value means. I have fun, or like perfect, like the vision of, if I were living out my fun core value every day, this is what it would look like. So I wrote it out, and then I created it on the vision board. And so I'd never done that like that. And it really helped organize my brain around that and just get real clear on how can I what does honoring my core values look like in my year? So,
you know what? That's such a great idea, Nisa. I love how you expanded on that when you talk about a vision board. It would be fun for people, if they have made a vision board in the past, to go back and look at their vision board. And I bet that will give them clues as to what some of their core values are. Because I'm actually thinking about mine. I was like, oh, yep. Yeah, that's a brilliant idea.
Well, I love I love what you just recommended, that if somebody is doing this exercise for the first time, their vision board is going to give them some serious clues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Into their core values.
Yes.
So, would you mind sharing what your core values are?
Oh, thanks for asking. My core values are connectedness, respect, trust, and stability.
Okay. Do you want to give? Okay, so you gave us the background behind how the connectedness one, how it was born. What about stability?
Oh gosh. So let me just also say that you may not like your core values, all of them. This one is one I wish I did not have. I've tried to trade it in. I've tried to negotiate. I've tried to get rid of it. It's got me. Stability really came from my dad. And he had a very, very unstable life, lost both parents, had to live in a boys' home, had lots of tragedy in his life. And as a result of that, he created a very stable environment for growing up. And so it's interesting because he's got a stability core value too. His came from the experience of instability. My stability came from the experience of lots of stability. So because I feel so stable in my family environment, like my parents still live in the home that I was practically born in. So for me, I like to know what's happening. I like to be prepared. I don't like change. I don't like, any surprises. And so,
which really shocks me. You have done a very good job of working with that core value, because you strike me as somebody who can just go with it and roll with it whenever.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I have worked really hard on it. I've experienced lots of anxiety and some panic attacks in my life because of it. So I have done a lot of work on it, but also that easygoing, I think, that you experience from me is sometimes connectedness will come in and save the day and go, well, gosh, if I need to like let go of knowing what's happening so that I can be with the people, then I'm going to be with the people. Right. So it's interesting how that rolls. But
I love that. That's fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating to me.
Yes, it is. Now, and I will say this too, and I think that was a really great question, Nisa, is that you have to also consider that what core value do you tend to get most triggered by? And then here's the question I always ask people. What does that cost you? So what stability would cost me sometimes if I was not willing to go with the flow and be flexible, it would cost me being left out. It would cost me from not trying new things. And I've learned that nothing's stable in life except for my stability core value. And so it's okay to want some safety and security and stability and to rethink what that actually means.
That's so good.
So you know me, I'm the first person to say, yes, let's climb up that mountain. Let's climb on the side of the mountain. Let's jump out of that airplane. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, that's so good. Well, so what, I was just thinking about where I got my gratitude core value from, since I've talked about that one in the course of this podcast. It just dawned on me and both of my mom is certainly somebody who would generously give gratitude. And so I think just naturally I received that from her. But then the defining moment to me, I just had this thought a while ago, was I think I was like a sophomore. No, I was in the 8th grade. And I was helping out at a track meet that our school was putting on at University of Baylor, or Baylor University, at their track. And it ended up raining a ton, and it was just kind of honestly a miserable experience. And when I left, I went up to the press box where our track coach was. His name was Todd Harbor. And I just said, hey, coach, I just want to make sure it's okay with you that I leave. Thank you so much for letting me help out. And he was like, well, of course. Thank you, Nisa. And then he wrote an article in the Riesel Wrestler, which was our neighborhood paper. And he quoted me thanking him. And he said, he said something like, what made it all like worth it, or what stands out to me, is that Nisa thanked me at the end. And so I'm wondering if it was like that acknowledgement of giving gratitude made a difference to somebody and impacted them in such a way that they would feel the need to write about it in the Riesel Wrestler. I'm just wondering is that where it came from?
Possible.
Anyway, interesting.
Yes. That's what I love about, like, you've known your core values for years, and this is a good point to people. This is a journey. That stability core value didn't come up for me for like a couple of years after I did the exercise. Your clarity about its integrity is actually the name of the core value versus hard work. You've done core values for years. That just came up for you. And now you're having even insight as we're having this conversation about the origin of some of them. So I want to let people know that this is a journey. This is a process. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of an unveiling, and you may have a group of words that feels very strongly for you, but then you might nail it down to a different word. And it's not that if you change the word that your core value changes. Your core
Mm-hmm.
value will not change. It's just what you're calling it.
Yeah.
And you'll, as you go through the process, you'll find what word really resonates with you the most, that really like goes, yes, that says it for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And okay, give me 30 seconds. My kiddos are about to bust through the door, and I realize the front door is unlocked, and they're going to be really loud. So hold on real fast.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'll keep talking while Nisa is opening up her door about core values. Everybody has the opportunity to write your core values down, put them in front of you, be curious about them. And as we mentioned before, we're going to send out a link to the core values exercise so that you can download that link and have the paperwork in front of you.
That was perfect. Thank you, Martha Lynn.
You're welcome.
Teamwork. Okay, one more thing. I just thought of this when you were talking about your stability core value, and then I'm sitting here looking at my fun core value that Greg and I share. See, you and Russell, like y'all are you have a similar heartbeat. Greg and I, similar heartbeat, because one of mine is fun. And when Russell and I were going through a very difficult time that you are very aware of, when he was let go of a job, a coaching job, and was really struggling with what next and how do I do this? And he was like, I've been able to recognize this now after the fact and kind of during it, but really it came up afterwards. His stability core value was freaking out.
Yes.
And my fun core value was like, I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun. We're going to get through this. You got this. Let's have fun. Let's have fun. And he's like, I just need to know when I'm going to have another paycheck. My responsibility is my family. I need to make sure that I'm caring for my family. I need stability. And if I heard him say once, I heard him say it a million times, I just want some stability. I just want some stability. And the big rub for us was me recognizing that, like, he was not trying to be a fuddy-dud during that whole process. And I was not trying to discredit his stability core value, or that he wanted to have some stability, provide stability for the family. But we were just like, both of our core values they were colliding with one another and imploding in front of our faces. And so that made for an interesting time. But now we can look back and go, oh, that is what that was all about.
Yes. And, hindsight's 2020, and it's always great to be able to identify that. And the more you're aware of what they are, I would say retrospectively is when it happens mostly. I rarely catch it in the moment. Rarely. It's after I'm already upset, or maybe after I've already said something. However, by knowing this and by being reflective of the core values, I do have a quicker recovery time. And sometimes that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, definitely. And, in thinking about, I remember telling Russell when we were talking through everything, once he'd gotten a job and we were trying to pick up the pieces and get back to just a life that wasn't filled with job turmoil and moves. We just had a real open, honest conversation. He's like, what needs to happen here? I'm like, I just need to have some fun. I am depleted. This has been a total drag for the past couple of years with you. I mean, I was having fun outside of our marriage, but I wasn't having fun in our marriage because we were experiencing a lot of stress. And that was a big realization to me that, this girl just needs to have some fun.
Yeah, and you get to ask for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is that we get to get in our own power and ask for what we need. And if we're in good partnership, then we can also make sure that we're asking what that other person needs as well. Like, this is what I need. What do you need? And how do we work through this together? Yeah. And you can do that with team members. Leaders do that with your team members as well. Do it with your children.
Well, and so that leads me to this last and final question as we close off our core values conversation for now, because we could just keep going and going and going on this. But if someone wanted to do this, bring you into their company, to do this core values work with them and or their team or their family, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I have two recommendations. Okay. So one would be Momentum Consulting. This is where this core values exercise originated. It's an incredible group of people. I've worked with them for, like I said, 20 years. And they have, 5 or 6 coaches that do this work, know it intimately like the back of their hand. If you were just wanting to do core values work, but they're also incredible executive coaches as well. So you can always go check out our team on momentumconsulting.com. And then I also, in addition to working with that amazing team, I have my own private coaching practice at Martha Lynn Mangum.com. And I do that work through that as well. So it's really depending on the needs of our clients, like what you need. So either one of those are great resources. And you could go look at the websites and hear more about all the other types of training that we provide as well.
Yeah. Well, I am so grateful you brought core values to my attention, because I've already said all the things. It makes the biggest difference in the understanding myself and know why and how I operate the way I do. And then when you bring other people into it, really it takes a whole other level. So thank you for sharing your coaching with us again, and your wisdom and all of your love. So appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, Nisa. Thank you. It's an honor for me to participate with you in your journey, because it certainly makes my life full and whole and happy. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Back to gratitude.
No, thank you. Where does it stop? No, thank you.
Martha Lynn.
All right. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Power of We podcast. And if you happen to be in Austin, we would love for you to join our fitness community. But if not, I would love for you to join me and our at-home fitness community. Most importantly, thank you for being part of the Power of We family.